Ready? Excellent. Good evening, everybody, again. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm going to ask the project working group. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I'm going to ask the project working group if they will come and join up front in any of these wonderful chairs. And it's almost like a church field, people filling up the back rows instead of the front. But welcome. I'm Dr. Stephen Holt, and I have the privilege of being the facilitator of our work for tonight. There are a variety of ways to participate in what is going to happen in this process. This is the first, at least the first of another opportunity for the community to gather and weigh in and hear about the process and the project around the Hill Block. So let me begin by saying that we are making history, and that's pretty exciting. What we're involved in is historic and significant and generational in its impact. And no matter how you feel about it, I think it's worth clapping or celebrating, don't you? For it, against it, I think it's pretty significant that we're here at this moment. So there are some cards out at the table for you to grab, and if you have comments or you've got some thoughts and you want to share, there is some high-tech opportunity to engage in and participate tonight. So hopefully everybody got one of these. Did you grab one of those? Yes, no? Okay, if you didn't, make sure you do. Kind of gives you the lay of the land, gives you some information, shows you how to connect and tie in using some of the social media platform to get your questions. We've got a mic up front that's going to give people an opportunity to interact. We've got an aspiration wall on the back where you can take a sticky note and write your thoughts about the Hill Block, write your thoughts about the moment and so forth. And then we've got a booth right down the hall in room number 9. And the idea of that is to give you a minute to answer the question, what do you think a good project for the Hill Block would be? Just a minute for you to speak into the camera, be captured on camera. And the way it's going to be used is predominantly internally among Prosper Portland. It will be used possibly as YouTube, but to capture this information and capture this historic moment. All right. Welcome, if I didn't say it. I'm glad you're here, and I'm looking forward to tonight. So let me kind of lay out how we're going to do what we're going to do. A couple of things that I call some talking points. So if we can pull those up. There's someone to pull those up. Boom. Technology is great when it works. Talking points. There we go. A couple things that are important for you to capture. Everyone's voice matters. Your thoughts, your input, we want to capture. I just kind of talked about the various ways that we're going to do that. Our goal tonight is to make sure, and going forward, is to make sure that all people who participate get a chance to express themselves. We want to know what you're thinking. Now, in light of that, since everyone's voice matters, it's important that we're going to have a respectful atmosphere. That we have an atmosphere that allows that opportunity to happen. That just makes sense, right? Hello, is there anybody here tonight? Hi. Okay, all right. Before I keep going, take a deep breath, please. Just one more. Just thank you very much. A respectful atmosphere. Where I respect your thoughts, you respect my thoughts, means we're not going to interrupt one another. We're not going to use terminology that is inappropriate, no name calling. This is an opportunity to hear whether I agree with you or disagree with you, whether I think what you're saying is solid or not. It is an opportunity for everyone's voice to matter. I hope that makes sense. Now, part of that means you're going to experience some discomfort. Here's what I learned. What I learned is when people are passionate about something, you feel it. And when we're passionate, it's because it matters. And passion is a good thing. It's just how we express that passion, how we talk about that passion, how we communicate that passion. And I think we can communicate our passion, especially around this historic property, we can communicate it in a way that still is respectful and honorable. And that's what we're going to do tonight. Expect non-closure. We're not solving everything tonight. We're not going to solve it. We're going to wrap it up in a bow and walk out and everything is perfect. This is a heavy lift. This has been a long time coming. We finally made it, and it's going to take some work for us to work through the things we need to work through. So it's okay that we're going to have non-closure. And then I ask you to stay in the process. Change is a process. Whenever you deal with change, it is a process. The very first aspect of change is resistance for whatever reason. We're excited about change as long as we don't have to. Change is a process. There's resistance to it. And then after that, it's questioned. Why now? Why here? Why this? Why them? Why they? Who, how, so forth. And at some point, it becomes awkward. As we get to the moment where we're trying to implement it, it becomes awkward because we haven't done it this way before. And ultimately, we get to the point where it is accepted as fact. Illustrate it real quickly. I don't know if you remember when these were first out. Anybody remember that big brick? And the transition from the big brick into the flip phone and then into this phone. And learning all the elements and the aspects of how the phone works. It was weird. It was strange. It was different. But now it's like, who doesn't have one? So as we go through the process, it's okay for these elements to happen. But I think we are capable of creating an environment that is safe, that is respectful, that is beneficial, so we can move the process forward. Now, from my background, those of you who know me, I'm going to toss in a little term right here. Can I get a witness in the room? Is there anybody? Okay, all right, okay. Very good. We're excited about you being here. Look forward to our process. It's going to be great work. And I'm looking forward to you participating in it. Mr. Mayor, we'd love to hear from you. Welcome to tonight's first gathering. Can we give the mayor a hand?
Thank you, Dr. Stephen. Can we get another round of applause, please, for tonight's moderator? So I hate to start with an apology, but I want to start with an apology. I cannot stay the whole evening, and I'd like to stay the entire evening. But more than staying the entire evening, I'd like to stay married because today is my 13th anniversary. Oh. And so I hope you will give me some leeway for tonight. But I wanted to be here. There's no place I would rather be this evening. 1.7 acres. That's what we're here to talk about tonight. And I know some people in the community might say, only 1.7 acres? What's the big deal? But I know that this 1.7 acres represents significantly more than the dimensions of this particular plot of land. Not that long ago, it was a home to businesses. Mm-hmm. It was where people lived. It's where families were connected to the community. It's where social service organizations and churches and nightclubs and restaurants thrived. It was, in fact, the vibrant epicenter of the African American community in the city of Portland. And more than that, I think it served as a testament to the strength and the resiliency of a community that thrived not because of the city of Portland and the institutions in our city, but despite those institutions. We know that in the 1970s, the city of Portland, through its development agency, used its condemnation power under urban renewal to displace 171 families from these 1.7 acres, most of whom were African American, to make way for a land sale to Emmanuel Hospital. We know that families' homes were demolished through this process. We know that businesses were lost, and we know that congregations were dispersed. To put it bluntly, it amounted effectively to a dismantling of the African American community. The effects of that dismantling caused many of the families that were located there to lose wealth as their homes and businesses were displaced. And we have to acknowledge that in many cases, that wealth has never been recovered. Before we can move forward as a community, we have to take a good hard look at ourselves. And we have to acknowledge, and we have to own our past in order to be able to move forward. We have to recognize that as a city, we failed our African American brothers and sisters. And we can't sugarcoat it. We were wrong. We were wrong. That's why this effort is so important. It's only 1.7 acres, but it means so much more than that to all of us here. The opportunity here is important, and the opportunity to grasp the future is important. We have an opportunity to begin righting what was wronged. And so, today, my office, along with Legacy Health and Prosper Portland and all the representatives that are here tonight, we've gathered because we want to mark a new path forward, one that's going to embrace the community as full partners as we choose to move forward together. That is our objective here beginning tonight. Through the community-centered process that we've established, we're going to not only envision and guide the delivery of the development project, but we hope we're also going to honor the African American community as we seek to provide new economic opportunities for the community. This work is going to be guided by a project work group, and you're going to hear more about that. It's made up by community members, many of whom are here tonight, who bring to this process a wide array of backgrounds, experiences, skill sets, and perspective. And the work group, their intention is to make sure that the recommendations of this space go to the City Council with the community's full input and support and the values of the community coming forth. We want to reflect the interests of the communities. That is very much my objective. We're hopeful that this process, as Bishop Holt mentioned, begins a dialogue and that we move towards intentional and inclusive development strategies that gives us a new model for moving forward. I also want to be very clear. I don't want to see this, and I don't see this, I don't view this as a one-off opportunity to be some sort of anomaly or some sort of a one-of-a-kind community development effort. No, that's not good enough for me, and that's not good enough for my administration. We want to see this as a model for how we, as a city, as Portland, can work together on community development going forward with deliberate and intentional community engagement from the beginning, before decisions are made. This could be one of the best opportunities our city has around intentional and deliberate inclusion in development. So as decades ago, when urban development happened as a negative consequence to our African American community, I look to the future and I see this as the beginning, the tentative steps towards inclusion, so that development includes and lifts and is guided by the African American community that was previously shut out of the process. That is not going to be part of our city's future. And that's why it is important that we are here today talking about this 1.7 acres. Now I want to make an admission right up front. This isn't going to be easy. This isn't going to happen without mistakes. This isn't going to be without fits and starts. And so I hope as we gather here tonight, and I know people have lots of other things that they could be doing, but you chose to be here. You chose to be part of this process. So here's the deal. Let's stick with it. Let's commit to this. Let's agree that while there will be challenges along the way, the value that we are trying to work towards here is worth it. It's worth a little bit of heartache, right? Do you agree with that? So I'll close by just saying this. It's only 1.7 acres, but there's a lot of history here, and there is a world of hurt and true injustice behind that hurt. And I want you to know your mayor gets it. I understand it because I've heard from so many people. I've heard the personal stories about homes that were demolished, businesses that were lost, churches that were disbanded, a thriving community that was displaced intentionally in Portland, Oregon. Let's change that narrative and let it start right here. Thank you for being here, and thank you for participating in this process. Now, I want to end on a happy note because I don't like to end my comments on a downer note, but we do have to embrace that history and that past. That food's going to go to waste over there. I go to a lot of community meetings. I have not seen food that good at any community meeting I've been to in a long time. Please, as the evening progresses, get up, go over there, get a plate, take advantage of it. I know I am. Thank you all for being here. Thank you.
Mr. Cole. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Now, I did not mention this. To my left, you will see the project working group, and we will talk about each of them in just a moment. You should have this also. Hopefully you grabbed it. It lets you know who the members of the project working group are, and that's out front as well, so you'll get a moment to go and grab one of those. Let you know who the members are, a little bit about their bio, so you get a chance to see the breadth and the depth and the width of the commitment of individuals who have volunteered to be a part of this process. That's pretty significant. So I want you to know who they are. And then what you have sitting over to my right are Charles Wilhoit, George Brown, Kimberly Branham, and then Leslie Goodlow. And they will be responding to questions at a moment, or at least listening to questions when we get to that section in our event tonight. So, again, the handout information is out front. Make sure you grab all of those items. Now we're going to hear from the executive director we're going to hear from, yes, the lead of Legacy, Mr. George Brown. Can we welcome him? Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Bishop, and ladies and gentlemen, thanks for being here this evening. And I know that the mayor extolled the potential virtue of this project. And he also touched on the history of what happened in Portland. Now today, I was reading the New York Times, and the same thing happened in Seattle. There was a photographer's article on the vibrant Central African American community in Seattle, which in the 70s was about 82% African American. Now it's in the double digits, 12, 18%. 2 weeks ago, I had the really good fortune of standing in the right place at the right time outside the National African American History Museum when there was a huge line and people waiting to get in, and I heard a voice say, "Does anyone need tickets?" I do. Got 2 tickets, went into the museum, and I will tell you, it is wonderfully done. Complete history of the African American peoples in the United States. So the museum is about 400,000 square feet. And yet it contains the entire history of the African American peoples in America. Very moving. But what's so moving, I don't know, how many have been to the museum? Not nearly enough. You start at the bottom, you go to the very bottom, and you go back to about either 1400 or 1600, and you work your way up until you get to modern day America, where you see, Michael Jackson, et cetera, et cetera. Now, I grew up in Harlem, in the inner city in Manhattan, New York. And about 6 months ago, I was with my sister-in-law, and we were doing some Google Maps. I wanted to see the old neighborhood of 132nd Street and Park Avenue, because I had some good friends who lived, we grew up in public housing. And I had some good friends who lived across 132nd Street. They lived in the tenements. You know, those walk-up apartment buildings? They're all gone. They're luxury apartments. And I saw an article in the New York Times that New York City has a $25 billion problem with its 176,000 public housing apartments. They've been allowed to decay. So, why am I saying all of this? Because the injustices that have been pervasive in our country are a part of our history. It's important for us to look back and remember, but I think it's far more important to look forward and decide what it is we can do, because I will tell you that the forces of injustice and inequality are still among us. I don't need to repeat what I think everybody knows. But it's incumbent for all of us here to think about what we can do symbolically that would benefit the African American community with that 1.7 acres. You know, I'm proud to say that the board of directors, Mr. Will Hoyt is a member of the Legacy Health Board of Directors, understood the symbolic importance of that 1.7 acres, which, by the way, is worth about $10 million, and felt that it was more important to have that property attempt to point out to the communities that we serve that there's a better use for it than to have it used solely by Legacy Health. And so I am really proud that we have made that determination. Now, we have some stipulations, and, you know, we don't need to go into details, but nevertheless, that's what we want that property to be used for. And if you ask me what's the best use of that property, I would have to turn to you. You need to tell us, because I've heard many, many good ideas, some I didn't even think of. But I'm hoping that this process, yes, I know there's a lot of pain, but we all have pain. There's been a lot of pain where we all came from. And if you want to have pain, the true reminder of the things that we have gone through as a people, you need to go to the National African American Museum of History and Culture. There it is, over the timeline of people of color who have been in this country. But I'm hoping that we can look forward. I would look forward to answering your questions to the best of my knowledge. And again, I'm proud to say that we are here to serve this community, and this is part of our service to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Burton. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Thank you. Dr. Alicia Moreland Capulla, and then right after, Kimberly Branham will go.
Good evening. Wonderful. So I actually want to start my comments. I am listed on there as OHSU and commissioner, but before being all of those things, I'm a community member, born and raised here in North and Northeast Portland, attended Jefferson High School, messed around and won the crown in 1998. So I am Oregonian through and through. And the comments that I'd like to make, I don't really, my intention is not to repeat what has already been said, but to add to it. When I think about the concept of history and its importance, one of the most important things is that what we recognize in this process and in any process is that we don't get to revise history. That's not what we get to do. Hopefully the purpose of this process is to reconcile it. Now, we can't take back every single thing that has been done, but certainly the acknowledgement of it has been certainly very important for me in the process as a commissioner on the Prosper Portland board. When I joined the board a little over a year and a half ago, I was amazed and intrigued by this idea that we would no longer just be saying words, because words are empty if there's no action behind it. So what I found was that the organization itself was in the process of making very active changes, cultural changes, and wanting to effectively do things differently. And so that process started well before the name change. Because for me, the name change was, it had to be attached to something that was already being demonstrated. And so I felt confident in that process, and I can say that as a board member and seeing the changes from the inside and the willingness and the openness to be vulnerable, to admit that there has been a lot that has not gone right, but to have a commitment to see more things go better has certainly been inspiring. And I hope that it's not just something that you see or hear, but that you feel and experience, even in this experience tonight. A few other thoughts. I was thinking about President Barack Obama, because it's happy for me to think about those days. And one of the things that he said that a sentiment that I'd like to maybe pin up in this room tonight is he would often say, a rising tide lifts all boats. And I struggled with that sentiment because in my mind I thought, that's really not true. If we're really dealing with the issue of equity and inclusion, I think we have to take that a step further. A rising tide only lifts all boats if everybody has a boat, and if everyone has access to a boat, and further, if everyone knows how to maneuver that boat. So what I see this process as is exactly that, is that we're taking some steps backwards, and we're really dealing with the heart of equity. And the equity is the only way that we can seize the opportunity of the rising tide as a community is if we step back and we ensure, with your strong help, that everybody first has a boat or has access to one, and that they know how to use it. So that's really it's more than just a metaphor or a symbolic process. We are really committed to it. And every feeling, emotion, every thought, every desire, I know it's fully represented in the room tonight, and that's important. There's room and space for it to the extent that it moves us forward. Frustration, anger, sadness, hurt, pain, trauma, it is all welcome here to the extent that we are able to use it to propel us forward. So I am incredibly grateful to you and your time here today, and it will not fall on deaf ears. We are really, really thrilled to have you here tonight and to learn from you and with you. Lastly, this is sort of like a preacher, huh? I said lastly twice, huh? Look, the preacher saying lastly, amen, I got 3 closes. No, but I'm gonna close. I really am gonna bring it to a close. Lastly, I will say that there is a huge distinction between leading and facilitating. Our goal tonight is to partner and facilitate. You are the leaders. And we are so graciously excited to partner with you in this endeavor. So I want to, on behalf of the Prosper Portland Board and the work committee, say thank you, and we look forward to learning from you and with you. So thank you.
Thank you. So I'm Kimberly Branham, thank you, and I'm the Executive Director at Prosper Portland. It's really an honor to be able to share this evening with you and to see many familiar faces and new faces. I have to admit that being in a place of faith and hearing of reconciliation, in my faith tradition, this week is Holy Week, and it is all about reconciliation. And so it feels very fitting, both reconciling yourself in your faith journey, but also with other people. It feels like a fitting time to have this conversation. So thank you for being here. So I'm going to provide some context so that we are all operating from the same sort of playbook, and then make sure that we have a lot of time for questions and answers. So the first goal here that's been referenced, and really is the guiding principle for this process that we're undertaking, is to benefit and to honor the African American community. And so the partners that have come together to collaborate and to move forward, really that is the foundational assumption upon which everything is based. And so the other kind of aspirations and desires to make sure that this supports the housing and economic needs, and that we are furthering the health of the community, really is on that foundation. So Mayor Wheeler and Dr. Brown and Dr. Moreland-Capuya spoke to the broader history of this particular site and how it will continue to influence our future. In the more recent history, there are organizations like the Portland African American Leadership Forum and NEBA and the Urban League, as well as efforts like Roots to Rise and conversations that were sponsored here by the Portland Housing Bureau and by Prosper Portland, that all raised the question of this site. And so it really came from the community. So when we came in front of City Council with the North-Northeast Community Development Initiative, City Council, having heard all of this questioning around this site and the painful history and the opportunities of this site, they really asked us to endeavor to have a conversation and to see what we could do. And so in August, we came forward with this collaborative approach founded in these values of honoring and benefiting the African American community. And the intent was to begin a process. So not a project, but to begin a process. And that's that's what's brought us here today. Following that announcement, we had a number of conversations with the North-Northeast Housing and the North-Northeast Community Development Initiative. I'm sorry, this is not moving forward. And the North-Northeast Housing Strategy Committee. We had some additional conversations, both in one-on-one settings and where we were invited to discuss the opportunity. Then we did some outreach to stakeholders within the community and invited people to nominate people to be on the project working group. There were 2 meetings that were held in order to finalize the people who you see in front of us today to sit on that project working group. So there were a couple of things that came out that have been consistently asked questions or frequently asked questions, and some of those are reflected here. So right now, Legacy Health owns the block, and as part of the collaboration, as was mentioned, Legacy Health will be donating that property to meet the objectives that we've talked about. So they will be donating the project without cost. They will pay for any of the medical facilities that are present at the future development, and as you see here, they will participate in this community-led process. The site is not currently within the interstate urban renewal area. There were some initial conversations about including the site within the urban renewal area to take advantage of tax increment finance resources. We heard pretty strongly that it was important to hold on that conversation until we had more information about what might happen and what the project working group envisioned. So we've held on that for a while and anticipate coming back to that conversation sometime in spring or summer of this year. But it isn't currently within the interstate urban renewal area, and so right now this project is supported by about $50,000 from City Council, which is helping to support the community outreach and paying for the food that we have here today. So there were a couple of other points that we heard in terms of the process that have been included and will continue to be included, and they basically focused on making sure that we had a transparent and fully engaged community process, that there were multiple generations and a lot of different expertise that were represented on the project working group and in the community forums that we hosted, that we defined and expanded the decision-making authority beyond just the institutional partners. And then people haven't said it in exactly this way, but a lot of the feedback that we've gotten is that there's a deficit of trust and that we need to really spend time building trust and building relationships. And so the process needs to achieve that as well. In terms of some of the early ideas of what should happen at the site, we've heard that there really needs to be a prioritization of ownership and ongoing financial return from the project to the African American community, that there needs to be benefits that are secured through a binding community benefit agreement, that economic opportunities need to be prioritized on this site, and that we should focus on a restorative justice component to it, ensuring that people who were themselves displaced have an opportunity to return to this site. The project working group is comprised of approximately 20 people, including members with expertise in affordable housing and arts and culture, community engagement, contracting, health and public health, real estate development, finance, retail and commercial tenanting, business growth, and nonprofit leadership. There are also representatives from each of the major organizations that are supporting this work to make sure that we're creating a table in which people can talk amongst each other and to each other versus feeling like there's a table where some decisions get made and other table where other decisions get made. It's felt important to have that conversation together. So the role of the project working group as currently envisioned is to first and foremost drive and define a transparent, community-centered process, to oversee the visioning process and the selection of the development team, and to really help us collectively to communicate with stakeholders and community partners with the staffing support of Prosper Portland and the Portland Housing Bureau and Legacy Health, but really to steward and act as a connection to the larger community. So this is a bit of a complicated slide, so apologies for that, but we really did hear that it was important to define roles and responsibilities and to define next steps. So what you see here are some of the major kind of buckets of next steps. So the first is community outreach, which is what we're beginning today. Then there's the visioning process, and then there's the development process itself. Where you see the large X's is where the project working group is in the lead. So the project working group is defining and leading the community engagement process, the community discussions, communicating with organizations and making sure that that's a two-way street of communication, overseeing the vision and guiding principles, project goals, and success metrics. And then we'll oversee the developer solicitation process and select the ultimate proposal that is successful. They will do this with the full support, as I mentioned, of staff from the mayor's office, from Prosper Portland, from the Portland Housing Bureau, and from Legacy Health. I do want to note that in the event that there is desire to have public resources, so tax increment finance or other public resources, then that decision would come, as the mayor mentioned, to City Council. So we've also scheduled the next few project working group meetings. These will be open forums where the project working group will have a chance to focus on the charter. So what are the agreements of how they work together? What are some of the fundamental project objectives? How do they want to engage the community? And those will be open to the community. So we will make sure that people know about these, and there's a website that we will push out. But we look forward to your questions, and I think with that, I will turn it back over to Dr. Holt. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, it's a lot. And it's been said it's a lift. And the lift, I appreciate the way you communicated it, that the community is being asked to take the lead and the group is to facilitate the process. So let's take a few minutes now and have some interaction. I mentioned that there are a few ways for your voice to matter. One of those ways is a microphone that's right here. So those who are courageous enough, free enough, and feel like they'd like to, you can come right up to the mic. We're going to give you a time frame to do so, and you can direct your question to these incredibly intelligent and capable individuals sitting right here. Or you can write out a question on a card, and then there is another process that is being used. I'm going to ask Tori Campbell to come and explain that very quickly. Did you want to do that? Oh, is that on there?
Yes, that's on.
I'm going to have them do that. I'm going to have, while Tori's coming up to explain some things, we've got two microphones right over here, and I'm going to ask for those mics to be just kind of passed along, and I'm going to ask you, Project Working Group, you don't have to stand up, or well, maybe you do. Just say who you are. Just say your name. There is a list of their names right there. Nothing long, nothing deep or intense, but just to share who you are, maybe a little bit about what brings you to it. So we're going to start with you, sir.
Do I need to stand up?
Please, so they can see you. This is just so that you know who the individuals are, and you can recognize them and put a name and a face together. That's why I'm asking them to do that. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, thank you. My name is Chris Gwynn, and I'm representing Kairos PDX here tonight, and I have a little experience with this. We actually did this about 4 years ago with the Alberta project, so I'm a little late to the party, but I'm eager to catch up. I'm eager to listen to what you guys have to say.
Thank you, sir. Let's pass it along.
I'm Lakeitha Elliott. I'm one of the community members at large, and I got involved, one, because this is my community. I shared at our first meeting that my papa and his mom were two of the people displaced from this space. And when my grandfather on my other side of the family, in his final days, he talked about jitterbugging on Williams and Russell. And so that space means a lot to me, and I hope that this space is somewhere that my grandchildren can be proud to be involved and engage in.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody. My name is Danetta Monk. I'm the Housing Program Manager at the Urban League of Portland. I'm happy to be here, and thank you all for coming out. It's going to be a good experience, and I think that we'll do some good work together.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Joy Elise Davis, and I'm the Executive Director of the Portland African American Leadership Forum, PALF. As a transplant, I'm very honored and humbled to be on this committee, and will do my best to listen and reflect that information forward. So thank you.
Good evening. I'm E.D. Mondonay. I'm the pastor of Celebration Tabernacle, and I'm also the president of the NAACP. And I'm here because I'm your brother, and I care a whole lot about you.
Good evening, everyone. Sharon Maxwell, native here to this area, and my grandparents lived right on Rodney and Beach. I lived as a toddler over on Borthwick, and we are concerned and want to make sure that this community participates and contributes to this dialogue and to this project that is going to be meaningful. I'm a general contractor. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Bill Prowse. I'm with the Oregon Association of Minority Entrepreneurs. I am a lifelong Northeast Portland resident. Went to school here, seen a lot of coming and going in this area. Want to make sure that we are honoring the people that have gone and hopefully bring some back. Want to make sure that what happens in the future doesn't happen like it happened in the past. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Kara Stoudemire Phillips, and I am, what am I representing? Lots of things on this committee. Which hat today? So I serve on another Prosper Portland committee that is in charge of the $32 million. I know we've been here at the meetings in this same building about that, and I am one of the representatives to that, from that committee to this particular project working group. I also serve as on the Boise Neighborhood Association, so representing perspective over there as well, and serve as the chair of the MERC Commission, and so those are some of the hats that I'm wearing here. Born and raised in North Portland, and so this area is very dear to me. My family actually still owns one of the only 3 houses over on Page Street, the big green one across from Tubman. So I'm very connected to this community and know that we're going to do a good job, and honored to be a part of this.
Good evening. I'm Anthony Deloney. I am from Self-Enhancement, Inc. I am a 22-year veteran of self-enhancement and a lifelong Portland native. I'm also a product of our public school system, specifically Grant High. Generals in the house.
Generals?
Generals. Something happened the other day. We know what that is. Generals, I say. Anyway, I'm excited to be a part of this. Love my community, and you can see the joy and the pride we take in our areas, but this is about us doing this together, and I'm mostly excited about, like the mayor said, using this 1.7 acres as kind of the blueprint of how we work together going forward.
Hello, my name is Jillian Siraj Felton, and I am on this committee representing the Northeast Oversight Committee. I am also a developer of affordable housing for Community Partners for Affordable Housing, and I'm just very honored and humbled to be here. Thank you.
Peace. I'm Justice Raji, and I'm from Portland OIC, among other things, and I'm here hopefully to lead a process that makes a change in the way we do these things going forward. And my primary concern is the families and young men I serve, that their presence is also felt because their families, I'm sure, have connections to that 1.7 acres. So, thank you.
Tony Hobson, President and CEO of Self-Enhancement, Inc., born and raised Portlander. Mama's still on Mississippi Street. Also could say I'm representing Portland African American Leadership Forum and some of the work that we did early on, which I think pushed the envelope on this whole conversation. Also a graduate of Jefferson High School, and let me just say, so we were glad to let Grant finally win a state championship. It was about time. I mean, we had won it 4 or 5 times in the last 6 or 7 years. And,
thank you very much.
You know, but it's all good. A lot of those grandkids are part of our SCI squad, so we got much love for Grant.
Good evening. My name is Mike Alexander, and like Joy, I'm a transplant here. I've been here for about 13 years, and I had the privilege to serve as the CEO of the Urban League for 3 years, and across the street from my window was this site. And those of you who know me know that I never open my blinds, because I quite often would be reminded of our history, but I couldn't see it as I looked. So our hope is that this effort and this work will allow us to create new history, which would be much more reflective of the pride that we hold as a community.
Good evening. My name is Walter Robinson II. I'm a strategic planning consultant, and I am representing PALF and Urban League of Portland. Like Michael and Joy, I'm also a transplant here as well. But even though I'm not from here, I am definitely putting roots here and feel of here. And I want to make sure that I am representing you all well as we move forward with this process to building a better future.
Hi, my name is Bryson Davis. I'm an attorney, and I am here representing the Seoul District Business Association, formerly NEBA. I am a transplant. I've been here about a decade, but I do have a dog in the Jefferson Grant fight, as I am mock trial coach for Jefferson, who made it to states this year. So proud of them for that. Yeah. I'm very excited. I think this project represents the shift to focus from equality to equity, and I'm really excited to be a part of that shift and a part of laying the groundwork for future projects to come.
Good evening, everyone. I wanted to clear something up. Michael Alexander is not my father. My name is Cupid Alexander, but I claim him as my father all the time, so when you hear me call him Pops, he's not my father, just for everyone's clarification. A lifelong resident here in Portland, Oregon. I work in the office of Mayor Ted Willer. I do housing policy, and I'm really excited about this. I know that there's been a lot of anticipation of this, so I really, really, really am looking forward to working with the community and making sure that at other tables, your voices are heard there, not only at this table. So, thank you.
Good evening, I'm Shabri Vickers. I serve as the Community Relations Manager for Portland Community College, our Southeast campus in particular, and then I'm also at the table as a part of Legacy's Community Partner group. And I too went to elementary at King and Vernon. My daughter went to Vernon. My aunt before that went to Vernon. And so our community certainly has many ties in the community here in particular. And Mayor Wheeler mentioned that this is just one step in a lot of work that we need to do. And I believe that's the case, and so I look forward to ensuring that what we do here is something that everyone can be proud of, including my aunt, my grandmother, and folks before, but also looking forward and using this as a model to ensure that this is much more than just the 1.7 acres. So thank you.
You all have heard from me, but I'll just, Alicia Moreland Capuya, community member. And since everybody's saying where everybody lives, my grandmother still lives on 14th and Wygant. My aunt lives right off of Roselawn. My other aunt lives off of Rosa Parks. So still very firm roots within the community. Just really, as I said, just humbled to be here with you all today. I think as you can see from the interactions here, it's genuine, it's real, everyone is committed to the process, and we are really looking forward to engaging with you. And I demos forever.
Okay, all right, okay, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Can we give them a hand? They're incredible. Come on. To commit yourself to this kind of work puts you in an interesting place. Oftentimes what happens when you step into a position like this, people begin to think that you represent an organization and that you no longer represent the community. And so it was important for you to hear from each one and understand the depth and understand the commitment and understand the value and their history and their ownership. And the goal is, as you're hearing it over and over again, and we keep repeating it because there are people that aren't here tonight that are going to bend your ear about tonight. And it's important that you can repeat the story accurately. Anybody ever play the game telephone? Remember, you whisper something in somebody's ear and they whisper it in somebody else's ear, and then by the time it gets around the room, it's totally a new story? Well, hopefully tonight what will happen is when people bend your ear, you'll be able to tell the same story. That the project working group are people from the community. They're here and they're committed free. They're giving their time to this lift to make things as highly as possible reflective of what the community wants. So again, thank you very much. Thank you for your commitment. Thank you for your time. Now, can I get my talking points back? I'm going to have you explain that in a second. Can we get our talking points back? Thank you. Everyone's voice matters. We're going to keep this a respectful atmosphere as we experience some discomfort. As somebody is asking a question or making a statement or expressing themselves, I think Dr. Moreland Capuya made it very clear. Part of our process is that the trauma, that the pain, that the energy may come out, but that's part of the process. We will use it all to move forward. We will remain respectful of one another. Again, we're not solving everything tonight, and we're staying in the process. You can ask questions directly to these individuals as they sit here. And if there's an opportunity and they can answer, they will do so. If not, then we'll take the information into consideration and make sure that there is the appropriate response that happens. So, cards, Mike, and Mr. Campbell.
Thank you. Just wanted to take a brief moment to let you know there's another way in which we are trying to capture comments and questions, trying to make use of, obviously, the power of your voice with the microphone, the power of your pen, which is you can jot down a question. Some of our volunteers, which are seated and will be standing here in the next few moments, can take those questions and bring them up front. But the last way is we're also wanting to show ourselves as being technologically astute and savvy, and so we are trying to incorporate another means by which you can share your questions, and they can also be filtered up to be presented tonight. So it's called Slido, and inside of your one-pager, you'll see a brief description on how it can be utilized. I just want to briefly go through it pretty quickly. I want to start by saying that there is Wi-Fi access here. Just so folks will be like, y'all using up all my data plan, and so I can't use it. So if you go to a new song guest is the Wi-Fi platform you could use, and the password, we have it here on this. It actually is missing probably the most important thing, which is hashtag. So hashtag faith316, and that should allow you to have Wi-Fi access on behalf of New Song Church, which we appreciate them allowing us to do this. So once you are able to get online, you will just simply type in the word Slido, slido.com, and that should take you to the Slido platform, which will allow you to begin to interact with this particular conversation tonight. Once you're on the platform, you then you input the code #HealBlock. Again, #HealBlock, and that should then populate on your cell phone, basically a platform that allows you to either answer polling questions that we might provide, but most important, we're going to use it tonight to allow you to ask questions. So you can simply type in your questions and send them, and we have 2 individuals over here who will be looking at all those questions. The cool thing about Slido is that if there's a question that's being posed, you can actually see it in real time. So you can be like, yeah, why Dr. Holt keep talking? Like, that could be a question that you could raise, and it'll show up, and everybody be like, right? But what the important piece about that is that if you like what someone has asked in terms of a question, you feel like it resonates with you, if you hit the like button, it will continue to populate that particular question so that it rises to the top. So that some of the stronger questions that resonate within the whole group, it's a way for us to help quickly synthesize that. So again, this is just a tool. It may not be the most effective, but we wanted to incorporate that so that all voices can be heard in the different ways in which we want to share. We do have the microphone. Again, if you're like, I'm old school, give me pen and pad, I do my best work that way, that's fine. You could also use Slido, and then we will bring those questions up and giving them to Dr. Holt, and he will use that as a way to facilitate the conversation moving forward. The Wi-Fi password, it's right here on here, but it's #Faith316, and it's a capital F, and Frank. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for the under the bus toss. I appreciate that. We're going to get going right now. So if you have a comment, it doesn't have to necessarily be a question. You have something you want to share and you want to say, and you'd like to come to the microphone, I encourage you to do that, and we will go with what we have first. I see a hand up to pass some cards out, or to capture the card. Okay. Yes, sir, we'll begin with you. If you just say your name, and you've got 3 minutes.
Hello, my name is Jenny Wilson. I'm a deacon at Emmanuel Church. I'm a board member of Elliott Neighborhood Association. And the reason why I joined the Elliott Board Association is because I wanted to make a difference of what I was seeing, that what I thought I saw what was happening in the community. My question is to the group. Is there anybody in the group representing the churches of Afro-Americans? Because if you look around the room, this is not all of us. And sometimes things get not heard. And this situation of the Hill Block, a lot of black people don't know about it. So I just don't want to see this get missed from people who really need to help make a decision. Number 2, how can one get on this board? Because I want to. The reason why I say that is because everybody don't know everything. And the little bit that I do know, I know it can make a difference. So we got a lot of people need to know about this. Amen?
Thank you, sir.
Amen.
Thank you very much. Yeah, we appreciate that. Thank you. Who would like to respond to question number 1?
Okay, there we go. Thank you for the question. For your question number 1 about the project working group, we do have members from the faith-based community. It's to represent the community. It's not going to represent every single aspect of the religious community within the black community, but we did pay attention to that, and we intentionally tried to get a representative that could speak somewhat to the concerns of that community. For the second part about how you can be a part of the project working group, right now we have all the project working group members that have been selected, but there is a community membership spot, so if should a member fall off and we fall below a certain number, we will open up that process, and at that time you would be able to be involved. As of right now, we do have a full project working group that we'll be moving forward with, but if something should happen or we fall below a certain number, I believe that number is 14, we would open up the process again to recruit more individuals to be a part of the process.
Thank you very much. I have a question directed to the mayor and or Prosper. The mayor committed to including the black community in this development or in this community development process. How will Prosper or Portland commit to this in the Broadway corridor, a much larger project?
So I'll let Kimberly answer the question on behalf of Prosper Portland, but I will state clearly tonight what I've stated publicly, including last week when we had our first community meeting around the Broadway corridor, and we introduced to the public the 3 finalists as the overall developers for the Broadway corridor. The Broadway corridor, by the way, is where the post office is located in that broader community. I made it explicitly clear that my expectation for that project is that it is an inclusive development, both in terms of who participates in the actual contracting and procurement, who actually benefits financially from the development of that area. It will explicitly and intentionally be inclusive. And the second piece of that is I see a broader community strategy. The Broadway corridor is actually linked to other development opportunities in the community, including the Rose Corridor, or the Rose Quarter, which, by the way, also used to be a thriving, predominantly African-American community. And that will also have a very intentional development strategy to lift those who were actually negatively impacted by the displacement created by the development of the Rose Corridor initially. But I see the Broadway corridor as being an opportunity to link the Rose Corridor with the Broadway corridor, with the Pearl District, and Northwest Portland. I see an opportunity to actually reintegrate and reconnect the fabrics of a community that was really torn asunder by urban development through past history. So it is very much front and center in the Broadway corridor development process. And I see what we're doing here around the Hill Block as being an important, I don't want to use the word pilot project because it's a lot more than that, but this is the first attempt to actually do this intentional kind of community inclusion. And I want this to be a successful process because it's actually going to be the template for the kind of development we're going to use throughout the Broadway corridor. I'll turn this over to Kimberly since she runs Prosper. Oh, you actually have your own mic. How's that for technology?
Thank you, Mayor. Building on everything that Mayor Wheeler mentioned, we have a steering committee for the Broadway corridor as well, and we put together a steering committee that looks a little different than we would have traditionally done for a project. Traditionally we would look for potentially people who were residents or next door neighbors or kind of really adjacent to a project. Given the magnitude of the project, we really looked for a diversity of expertise and background and wanted to make sure that culturally specific organizations were represented. And so I think what we will be doing after we select the master development partner is working with that group in order to really nail down and dive into what are those community benefits. Is it that we want to have specific development parcels for specific developers as part of that? Do we want to make sure that there are certain kind of tenants that are in there, or is it a contracting expectation? And so we will be working with the steering committee and the master development partner to really dig into that as a next step.
Thank you. Does someone else want to come to the mic? We'll go to the microphone before we go to more cards. And we've got questions coming in, and that's fantastic. Thank you very much for those who are tech savvy.
Yes, my name is Manuel Crockett.
Got 3 minutes.
What I need to know, because I don't know, is how much land was originally lost, stole, taken, or whatever, and who decided on the 1.7 acres? Because I remember that area being a lot bigger for where the African-American community was. And with all the development that's already went on, if you do something over there, how is that going to generate any kind of revenue for the people that have been displaced? You know, that's what I need to know.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for the question.
The question.
So we were just asking amongst ourselves if anybody knew the original size of the Emmanuel Hospital Urban Renewal District, and we don't have that off the top of our heads. So we will, say again? 22 blocks. So I guess it was 22 blocks. So I think, building off of what Mayor Wheeler said, we recognize that this is not a full restoration, that the 1.7 blocks the 1.7 acres is an important component and is a portion that has not been developed on. And so we are looking and we'll be working with the project working group to decide who owns it at the end of the day and how whatever happens from a programming standpoint does benefit the community on an ongoing basis. Anybody else want to add to that?
Okay, we'll go to questions that have come in through our process. In your roles and responsibility slide, this is directed at you, Kimberly, it is very confusing to understand who has the decision-making power or decision-making paper. And there's another question that also fits along that would be directed at you, Dr. Brown, and that is, since Legacy is not on the project working group, what is the role that Legacy plays in decision-making? So, Kimberly and then Dr. Brown.
Well, part of the answer is that Charles Wilhoit is on the project working group. And the stipulations that we have is that whatever the community decides that should occupy that property would be in the interest of the community. The best interest, and that could be any number of things, but one of the things that we don't think would be, for example, we don't think would be in the interest of the community would be an amusement park or a casino or something like that. So that's our stipulation. We also want to make sure that a very small portion of that property can be used for healthcare facilities. We estimate it would be about 10% of the property's total buildable area. So, and I guess the third thing is we'd like to see a community organization or community benefit corporation, but that has to be decided by the attorneys. We don't want the property to fall into the hands of an individual or a corporation, which ultimately we think that would not benefit the community. But these are just ideas and still very, very early in the process.
So there was a question about the slide here, which we will continue to refine because, as I mentioned, it isn't as clear as it should be, but it was our first kind of attempt. So lead role, I think, is meant to suggest decision as well, although the define and lead process, I'm not sure that there's a decision as much as leadership on that one, so we can dig down into this as we look at the governance structure and look at the charter development. But the intent was that where you have the large X, that is the decision maker, so that the project working group is deciding on what is included within the solicitation and selects the proposal, for example. So hopefully that's helpful. Yep, there's a question over here. Oh, okay. Okay.
Okay. Wonderful.
Dr. Hope, my response is to the gentleman that was concerned. This is E.D. Mondane about I'm sorry? Deacon Jimmy. My response is to you. I have made it my personal business to want to get the elders in our community here at this table and to involve the interaction of the clergy in our community. Now, perhaps you can't work on this board, but you can work with me to make sure that all of the clergy and those people that we're missing come to the table. So if you're interested in speaking about how we're going to do that, please make sure to contact me afterwards.
Thank you very much. I'll let you hold for a moment if you could. Okay, thank you. Others, any other voices that wanted to come to the mic at this moment, come. And then we'll go back to the cards. Thank you very much. If you can announce your name, and you've got 3 minutes.
Yes, my name is Laquita Lanford, and I wanted to thank you guys all for being here. I am an employee of the Urban League of Portland. I am a proud community member and leader within this community, and I am in support of this group and this process to move the community forward with some of the things we've heard about trauma and pain and all of the things. I'm not nervous, but I didn't prepare myself to speak. But I do, all of you guys are my colleagues. All of you folks I've worked with in the community with in some aspect or another over the last 4 years that I've been here. So I'm not gonna claim to be a transplant because I am down on the ground every single day working within our community to get them housing currently. And I've housed 35 people through my role with the Urban League of Portland and with Join, constantly seeing our people that are really in need and in support. And so this center and this space will be a place that people can come together and be able to fellowship, if anything, to know that there's a community that do care for African Americans because we have been displaced all across the nation in the United States of America. So I just wanted to say, I'm definitely here to support, to be a part of this process as much as possible, to give any input and feedback that I can from what I'm hearing in our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I think it's appropriate to give a hand to everybody who's willing to step to the mic. That's not an easy thing to do, especially when some of the faces are frowning at you. So thank you for being willing to do that. Sir, your name, and you have 3 minutes.
I reserve the right to not take all those 3 minutes at this time. Thank you very much, sir. My name is P.C. Perry, and I guess I'd like to direct this to Dr. Brown. I remember the occasion in New Haven, Connecticut, where Malcolm X came through town and educated the community to stand up, and they did. One of the things they stood up to do was when Yale decided it wanted a piece of property that it could not get its hands on for a long while, the proposition was made to Yale, if you want this property, give us something back that we can have for a long time. That was to make doctors, to make nurses, to have a facility in the community that can be, as the Panthers did, to have a community resource for those who need it, of color, and not to be rejected. So I'm saying, in this giving back, and thank you for the time that you're going to be here, and I hope it will continue after you leave, what is it, January?
June.
June. Okay, we'll give you a little longer then. That you will be able to continue the effort to make sure that what gets established gets continued.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Appreciate that.
Well, sir, I will tell you that you have my commitment because were it not for some activities, affirmative action, as disparagingly as that's currently referred to, I probably would not have made it to college. Both my parents didn't finish high school. I certainly would not have made it to medical school, et cetera. So I do believe that one of the things that I'm committed to is sort of paying it forward in any way I can.
All right, we'll go to a few of the cards. Why are all the meetings at 2 to 4:30? Not very friendly to the public at large. Will they be on video? Will they be live streamed? Is there openness to address some of the time frame?
That's a real good question. We're open to changing that. That's the answer. We're open to changing it. I think we wanted to put something up there that you could respond to, and we are willing to change that to make it more accommodating. We were looking at Saturdays, and we will be adjusting that to make it more friendly to the community.
What about the live stream?
Say that again.
Are the meetings live streamed?
Yeah, there will. I don't think. Yeah, it's just video. It's not. We're going to try, apparently, to have. It will all be videoed, but apparently the live streaming depends on the Wi-Fi. So now you know. I know.
So the question was, will you start with that schedule, or will you not do any meetings until there's...
So for the April meeting, that will be the schedule, and we'll adjust it accordingly. So the April meeting will be held according to that schedule, and the rest will be adjusted.
And it will be held where?
Can we put that back on the slide? Okay, thank you.
Yep, there it is. Working on the venue?
We're working on the venue. We will be updating you by next week.
And so I would say, please make sure that you've signed up if you're not on the email list. And how would they go about making sure that they are contacted to know once that is done?
At the bottom, you see the prosperportland.us/Hillblock. So you can get information and updates and sign up for the mailing list, I believe, on that website.
All right, back to the cards. Why weren't community members who may not have served on boards or have high level of degrees considered to be on the board? Don't feel it is a diverse representation.
So the process of us getting the names of the individuals that were here were all based on our interaction with long-standing African-American serving rooted organizations. So what we did is we went to them and we asked them for a list of individuals with a diverse set of skill sets, and there was two different processes to get those names. So there was one group that determined what the names were, and they suggested hundreds of names. Well, maybe not hundreds of names, but nearly over 100 names. And then there was another group of individuals who were suggested to go through those names. So of the individuals, this was the group selected based on their skill set. There was a community space for individuals who were just based off the community to self-select, to self-nominate, and we tried to get that information out there along the listservs. We put the information out there on an abundance of places, and this was the group that was selected by the community based off the community organizations that we engaged with. I know there was a question earlier about how opportunities will come in the future. Should anyone fall off, we're going to open up that process once the number gets down under 14. But this was the group that was selected based off of the organizations that we engaged with, based off their skill set. So,
thank you very much. The project was announced before the community here was involved. Would you characterize that as a mistake in the early part of the process? Who would like to respond?
I'll go first, and then the other people can weigh in. So I don't know that it was a mistake. I think that we have learned from it collectively in terms of the level of outreach that we probably should have done. But I do think that at some point it had to be shared, and so I don't know. I don't know exactly how it would have been shared better. I think we we would have done better not to go directly to our board with a request to amend the urban renewal area. So that definitely, from my perspective, was not a good move, and I take full responsibility for that. But I think that the announcement itself was sort of neutral. I think the rollout and being able to communicate that it was meant to be an inclusive process would have gone better had we not gone to action directly to my board. Anybody else want to add?
I'll say something so you know I'm awake up here since I haven't said anything yet. Before I get to that, I just wanted to make a few comments because I should have made a statement when the rest of the committee spoke, or the group over there. I serve proudly on the board of Legacy Health, and I've served on the board of Portland Prosper, PDC. I'm still getting used to that name because it was PDC when I was there. I was there for 9 years. I've served on the board of the Portland Business Alliance for 15 years. I've served on the board of OHSU for 9 years. And I'm sharing this to make it clear that I'm firmly committed to Portland, and I'm firmly committed to the community. And the one that I've left out is the neighborhood and the street that Michael Alexander talked about. I served on the board of the Urban League for 13 years and chaired that organization. So I sit here tonight with unfinished business. I'm very committed to seeing something happen there. And when someone asks if it was a mistake the way it rolled out, I would say that we were so excited about the collaboration that we came to, recognizing that we were all firmly committed to doing something valuable for the community in that area, that we jumped all over it and we wanted to announce it as quickly as we could. So I hope people look at it in that way. Everyone sitting in front of you, everyone on the group is firmly committed to doing something that's very valuable to the community. And I would never dare say that we can fix anything, but I would dare say that we can look forward and take some strides to bring both pride and history back to the area in a way that's forward-looking. So I just want to say I'm very proud and pleased to be a part of the group. I look forward to working with the group and with all of you. I love hearing Kimberly acknowledge things, and that's where we often fall down in life. If we have made a slip up, the best thing we can do is acknowledge why we made it and move forward. And I think that's why every one of us is in this room. Mayor Wheeler started out by saying what has happened, and no one would deny that. But the only way we can address it is to move forward in a very positive way. And that's why I'm sitting here tonight, and that's why you'll see me at every meeting that happens if I'm in this city when that meeting happens. So I want to thank you all for coming out. I want to thank everyone on the Development Committee for their commitment and their time. And I particularly want to thank Prosper Portland, Mayor Wheeler, and this gentleman sitting next to me. That's the one great thing about being on the board. See, I can sabotage his departure, so I've been taking some steps to try to keep him around. But I will tell you, he is firmly committed to making sure that when he walks out the door, he's left behind an organization that's firmly committed to doing the right thing in the area. So thank you again for coming out, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to serve you in Portland.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm going to combine a few of the questions because the essence is, what is the role of Prosper Portland and Legacy as it relates to decision-making? Who has the final decision? And then I'll go to the next one after that.
I don't want to be out of order, but I want to go back to the question about community and who sits before you here. For some reason, the question, I'm just wanting to display a moment of vulnerability with you. The question rubbed me the wrong way of why did you select community members with degrees and pedigree or whatever the question about degrees. And what I would like to offer here today is if we could also agree that we won't make assumptions about who sits before you, but that we ask questions, because each of us has a story. And at the end of the day, the reason that I'll speak for me personally, coming to participate in this process as a community member first, I think it raises a larger question about who is community and who gets to define it. But I would really encourage us not to make assumptions about anybody up here, and that we would try to engage in conversations to get to know people, because oftentimes it's those assumptions that get in the way of the genuine work. And I do believe that that has been the history, especially when it happens in communities of color. There are always assumptions within that community, and there's intentions, there are actions within the community that maybe subconsciously separate us and get in and impede our ability to be optimally effective. So please, let's have conversations with each other and let's not make assumptions. Thank you.
Well said. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So the role between the legacy and Prosper in decision-making, and it's also leading into, if this is a community process, how are we making sure the community is being reached? So
I'll first start about Prosper Portland's role on this one. So we don't have a formal decision-making role on that. That isn't how we envision our role on this. As I mentioned at the beginning, if there are tax increment finance resources that are ultimately invested, then our board would make that decision about how those resources are invested. But right now we are providing staffing, and I just want to recognize actually all of the staff who are in this room who have helped to put this event on, and appreciate their efforts and their leadership. So we are helping to provide staffing, we are helping to facilitate and support the project working group, but we are not making a decision and don't anticipate to make a decision through this process unless there is resources from Prosper Portland that are invested in the ultimate project.
I think I articulated legacy stipulations that the property be used for community benefit in the greatest sense of the term. But we don't have any specificity around how that gets exercised. Although I think we could recognize some ideas that might be put forward that wouldn't be in the best interest for the community as a whole. And I think all of us would recognize that. I cited two examples, and there are probably others, but those are the reserved powers that we would exercise. But I think basically what we're looking to, and our trust and faith is in the community proper, that after consideration of all of the many ideas, that a reasonable set of ideas would be put forward that would actually benefit the community. And we're willing to entertain those because we think that's in the best use of that land for the health of the community. And health is just not medicine. Health is psychological health. It's the health that you get from being respected, from being listened to and being valued. And really, that's why Legacy is taking the position that it's taken, because we fully recognize that all is not right and well in our society. And we continue to be reminded that all is not well and right in our society. But we can take this step to help right those, just like we convinced our other healthcare institutions to put forward $21.5 million to go forward with affordable housing. Now 379 units are under construction. We also put forward the idea that we should come together with some of our fellow healthcare organizations to provide a new behavioral health hospital. And those are just some of the things that we've done because that is our mission. It's good health for our community. And we think that this is good health for our community. And part of that good health is to say to the African American community, to have them say to themselves that what we're doing does matter. And what we can do, we can change history. And even if this is a small example, one of the ideas would be an incubator where African Americans can learn to do their own managed businesses and to connect with others to go forward and do similar projects throughout the community. That's just one idea. But we think this is a place that can be a generator for ideas to go forward. as well as to recognize the culture and the history of African Americans. So there are many ideas, and I've heard these from other people, and that's why we're turning to the community. We don't have a prescription for this. We are reaching out and to you to find out what that process is. And I don't know of a perfect process, but I think you'll find all of us very sincere in saying that if there's a better way to do this, we're all ears.
Thank you.
I was going to
Oh, yes,
speak
please.
to the engagement piece.
Please, because there's another question around that, the engagement piece, and that is, for those who may not have access to the internet, how will the project working group, Prosper Portland, et cetera, reach community members regarding updates, schedules, meetings, et cetera? So.
Leslie Goodlow, I work for the Portland Housing Bureau, and I'm a long time, since I didn't introduce myself, I've lived in Portland for 46, almost 47 years. Raised my daughters here. I'm a Grant General. Woo, woo.
General!
And my daughters went to Benson, and and I live about 8 blocks from this piece of property, most of my life near this piece of property. Anyway, engagement. Some of the things that we have used at the Portland Housing Bureau that we will likely look at are mailings into zip codes surrounding the piece of property. When we were doing the housing strategy, we sent out 77,000 mailers to households and zip codes in Northeast Portland, folks that lived out in East County, so that we could make sure everybody got a piece of paper that said what we were doing and give them an opportunity. We have email addresses, we have phone numbers where people could call in and give their feedback to a live person, or they could leave a message and someone could call them back. We video every one of the meetings, and I'm sure that we will continue to do this so people can watch it on cable access. We did a lot of grassroots. People went to barbershops and beauty salons and community centers and churches and dropped off flyers. And we had folks from different schools that were willing to come and canvass neighborhoods to hand out information. So those are the types of things that people can do to help us. And as Dr. Holt said, it's really important that what you hear is that you repeat accurate information and not repeat inaccurate information, that you give people the opportunity to find out what's real and not speculate about what's going on. This is important to me, not just because I work for the city of Portland, but because it's important, and I'm a black person that grew up not very far from this piece of property. And I volunteered to do this. It's not part of my job at the Housing Bureau. So it's really important that we get out accurate information. And if you have suggestions about ways for us to get information out to people, it's really important for you to get that to us so that we can make sure as we move forward and we put together our engagement strategy that we employ every possible avenue for getting feedback from people.
Thank you very much. We'll continue with the cards. Mr. Washington, come to the mic, sir, please.
I can speak from here. You can hear me, right?
It's being recorded. It's being recorded. It's being recorded, sir. Thank you.
The mics is the thing that make people nervous.
I got you. Thank you. That's good feedback. That's good to know. But we don't think it makes you nervous, sir.
You got that right, Hope. Hi, I'm John Washington, and I'm the chair of the Seoul District Business Association and the editor-in-chief of Flossin Media. You know, there's two things that's ringing in my ear tonight, and I was listening to this sister speak on cable this morning, driving into work, and she was saying that they were talking about reparations, right? And the announcer asked, well, what would be the first thing you'll do that you believe people should have in their packet of reparations? And she said the first thing is to have a card that states a mental health professional. You should go see this person because of the fact that we've been disrespected, traumatized, and all of that stuff. You know, but the one thing that also came to my mind that we were speaking about was this is not the sum total of this process. Just this group is not the sum total of this process. We had some serious issues in the room of selecting these people, you know, and there was a lot of serious people in that room making that selection. So we like to believe that we selected our brightest. And by the way, welcome, everyone, because we like to believe this is a reflection of our brightest. You know? And the other part is that, you know, a call to action for black people all over the world is a call to action for us all. It don't matter where you're from, where you live. If you there and you can hear the call, and if you got any kind of backbone, you need to stand and address the call. That's just the way the nature it is, for us at least, because that's the only way we're going to be able to advance ourselves, is that we come together and take the task on collectively, and we deliver on that task on behalf of us all. So again, I'd like to welcome all of y'all, and I do again thank you for the work in which you guys are gonna have to embark upon, because this is a heavy lift. And you ain't gonna be able to get it all on that 1.5 or 1.7, but it's a beginning. And the beginning is that I hope y'all come up with something that's a gift that keeps on giving. You hear? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. In light of that, while the other gentleman's coming, will there be an opportunity for residents to grow equity and generational wealth?
So you know, I don't want to speak on behalf of the project working group, but I do want to echo that I think that having an ownership stake and creating opportunities for wealth creation for ownership has been one of the things that we have consistently heard. And so it is my firm belief that that will be part of the overall criteria that the project working group puts forward. And I think that there are a lot of different ways that people are looking at you know, community investment trusts and the like to create ownership opportunities. There's also opportunities to have ground floor retail. And so I think all of those things, it's my impression that all of those things will be seriously considered. And I'm seeing nods, so that sounds like a yes.
Thank you very much, sir.
Brad Perkins. I'm also a member of the Soul District Business Association. I'm from the hood as well. This is great. I think this is a great opportunity. Finally, we get to this point. Since 2004, I've been writing letters to neighborhood groups and the mayor and city council and even Dr. Brown about what to do I'm a real estate guy, what to do with this property. It's sitting vacant. Let's do something. Let's get the community involved because it was taken away from the community. So I feel a lot of joy here that I think we have a great group that will be a phenomenal task. When I was doing my research about the history of this, unfortunate circumstance, two things rang into my mind. One is that Ira Keller, who led all this, has his name on a building downtown that we should really question to keep it there. Because Ira Keller represented my white race and bullied his way through and really questioned this neighborhood community group that was fighting this as to the appropriateness of them doing what they were obligated to do, which was to save their homes. And the other thing is the name that was attached to this project was Model City Program. And what you all are going to be doing will be putting together a new Model City Program. And I hope that this is representation of what should be happening in other parts of the United States that this happened to. So my question is, after Saturday and seeing these kids out there in Washington, D.C., I'd like to see part of this be a possibility of a classroom space as part of this building that they can be taught the medical field that Dr. Brown's part of. And my question is there a possibility still to maybe get one member of the youth to be part of this committee?
Thank you for your question. Thank you very much.
That was a good. That was a great question. One of the things that we have engaged with directly POIC, and I talked to the CEO there, Joe McFerrin, who's been big in the community in creating pipelines as far as being involved with the Hill Block conversation. That is something that we're looking into, and I think that that's something that we can say that we are directly wanting to have involved in this, is that generational understanding of the space and the opportunity to engage in this process, especially since spaces like this in this city are dwindling. And so the opportunity does exist with this, and we recognize that and are actively engaging on how to make that a part of the process.
Thank you very much. Our time is gone. If you look at the agenda, the way we laid it out, we've passed our moment around Q&A. But want you to continue to submit them. We've got some questions we did not get a chance to respond to, but want to find a way to respond. It's very important. Can we give a hand to our project working group tonight? Thank them for who they are, what they're going to do, this energy, this effort. Can we give a hand to our panel as well? Thank you for your commitment and your leadership. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Our love to your wife for lending you tonight. We support your marriage. Let us know if there's something we can do.
It is our 13th wedding anniversary tonight, and I hope to have at least 13 more, maybe many more beyond that. So thank you all for coming out. This is great. Remember, this is just a beginning. It's a preliminary conversation. So thanks for being here and being part of it. Thank you.
And I think you should give yourselves, we should give you a hand as well. Thank you very much for keeping this atmosphere a respectful one. And I think this is a way that we can engage with the community on a regular basis. It's important that we remain transparent, that we remain accountable, that we remain engaged, and that we remain authentic and genuine. And part of that is by creating safe spaces where people can do what we just did. So I want to make sure that you have an opportunity still to go down to room number 9 where you have a moment. You've got a 60-second window to speak into what a Project Hill group would look like. And according to Minifer, he's asking for everybody to participate in that process. Is that right, sir? All right. This young man is the assigned project manager. So thank you very much for that. It's with Prosper Portland. And lastly, before we go, just to make sure, all of the Prosper Portland staff, Kimberly referred to you, but I don't think anybody stood up or waved a hand or anything. So everybody who's Prosper Portland staff, would you hold your hand up? Thank you, Prosper Portland. Thanks, everybody, for being here. Have a wonderful night.